Okay, folks, let's do this. David Parsons here. It is News Trap time, Monday, October 14th, 2024. The world continues to fall apart at the seams. I have lots of things to share with you. One of the things that popped out to me this morning that I already shared on Instagram, if you follow the Nostalgia Trap Instagram page, is a quick take from the Washington Post about how FEMA and other federal hurricane relief agencies are having to relocate in North Carolina due to armed militias roaming the wastelands. So last week I talked about this place, North Carolina, as a ghost zone, a Chernobyl. That being filled in by armed militias might not surprise us. I think the United States is closer to a place like Haiti or Mexico than we would like to admit. Justin Rogers Cooper, a good friend of the show, is always telling me that, and always telling me that we're more of a Latin American country than a Western European one, and we're so fucking armed, and I think that's part of it as we devolve here, and climate, emergencies wreak havoc, either one, on the federal government's ability to respond. You have that filled in by people with guns. And so we'll see where all that goes. I don't want to be too hysterical about it because I've got lots of things to share today. But I just wanted to throw that out there at the beginning because, we're heading towards this election and things are freaky. Listen to this. Trump went on Fox News Sunday, that's yesterday, and in the interview he said the following: I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, sick people, radical left lunatics, and it should be easily handled by, if necessary, by the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. So, sorry, young commies, you're going to the camps if Trump wins, and he's going to use the military to put you there. Who knows? But that kind of language is insane, and it plays out in interesting ways generationally. This poll that came out yesterday that I also posted on Instagram about those who say Hitler had some good ideas, overall, that's a number that's rising in America. More and more people are saying that Hitler actually had some pretty good ideas, and that plays out generationally interestingly in that it's the younger you go, the younger people are the ones that are most interested in Hitler and in thinking that maybe he was kind of cool. I don't know if that's all the influence of Kanye. I actually talked to a fan of the show, a high school teacher, or I should say a listener of the show. I don't know if he's a fan, but a high school teacher who was sort of responding to this and saying, that tracks with the sort of anti-Israel shit among young people. Young people are looking at genocide happening on their TikToks, etc., and their response is like hating Jews and saying maybe Hitler was right and wanting to get rid of these fucking people. So that's a fun fact, and to me, a lot of people expressed surprise to me when I posted this. They were like, wow, I would have thought it was the boomers who were more the Nazis than the young people. The young people are all cool and gonna save us. I've been hearing that lie all my fucking life. But, this pack of kids that are coming up that were raised on their phones, we should be terrified of because they are the most susceptible to disinformation, etc. It does not surprise me that it's the boomers who are most likely to remember and think about the Holocaust and World War II and have kind of a realistic idea of what Hitler was rather than some cool meme that maybe Hitler was right. That's fucking crazy shit, honestly, and incredibly disturbing, and we'll have more of that on misinformation stuff in a second because I want to share some other shots with you. Here's some stuff about China and China rising as a sort of hacking state, a state that is very interested in manipulating digital technology, particularly the way information flows. Last month alone, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as the FBI, said a Chinese state-linked firm hacked 260,000 internet-connected devices, including cameras and routers in the U.S., Britain, France, Romania, and elsewhere. A congressional probe said Chinese cargo cranes used at U.S. seaports had embedded technology that could allow Beijing to secretly control them. The U.S. government alleged that a former top aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul was a Chinese agent. China-backed hackers outnumber all of the FBI's cyber personnel at least 50-1, according to the U.S. agency. One European agency estimates China's intelligence gathering and security operations may comprise up to, wait for it, 600,000 people. China's hacking program is larger than that of every other major nation combined, FBI Director Christopher Wray said earlier this year. And, Justin, in my comments here, is reminding us that it was Bill Clinton who brought this nation into the WTO and said they would become liberal if we did so. So thank you, Bill Clinton, once again, for laying the groundwork for the nightmare that's unfolding on planet Earth. Here's some more on that. Complicating the West's response, unlike with autocracies such as Iran or Russia, trade with China has for decades supported Western economic growth, which in turn underpins the West's long-term security. Most countries simply can't afford to slap China with sanctions and throw out its diplomats. China is different, says Ken McCallum, head of the UK's domestic intelligence agency MI5, meaning we are economically dependent upon this relationship with China. So they are different in the fact that we can't fucking sanction them. It's weird because it's the way that the U.S. has sort of created this. I say it's weird. Maybe weird isn't the right word, but the way the United States has created this sort of like global trade alliance, mostly to infuse capital around the world and allegedly benefit American stability, is also laying the groundwork for severe instability and our inability to confront a nation like China that's just like gonna get into our computers this way and be more of a ruthless competitor than we are. So a lot going on there. A couple other things I want to share. Health insurance. The cost of employer-provided health insurance. You don't hear this as an election topic at all, which is amazing, right? Like most of my life, we were talking about like universal health care, we need Obamacare, etc. Now it's just kind of like no one gives a fuck about it. I think COVID honestly broke the world and broke our ability to deal with anything, I think. But one of those is sort of like the way people think and talk about medical care and what it costs. Listen to this. The cost of employer-provided health insurance, which rose 7% in 2024 for a second straight year, is likely to rise again. Companies' total health benefit cost per employee is expected to increase an average of 5.8% in 2025. Some companies that had been absorbing the higher costs for drugs and doctor visits now say they will have to start passing on those prices to workers in the form of higher deductibles, and in some cases, higher healthcare premiums, says Beth Umlin, Mercer's Director of Research for Health and Benefits. So I got the COVID vaccine the other day. Yeah, I still get it. I'm a fucking globalist cuck loser. And that COVID vaccine cost, I got it covered by my health insurance, but it's $250. So like the days of like free COVID vaccines, free masks, free COVID tests and supplies, that's over. And we're back to like, well, everything costs hundreds of fucking dollars. So to me, like, public health is just out the door when things cost that much. It's unfucking believable. And here's some more about a topic I've addressed on the show before, which is the fact that nobody around the world is having children anymore. And I've kind of pitched that as an economic thing before. It's like, well, who would have kids in this environment? It simply costs too much. But I might be wrong about that. And here's some screenshots that show you why. A lot of people are just like, fuck having kids, right? We just don't fucking want them, whether we get benefits or not. So that part of it is really interesting. And let me get to these screenshots about healthcare. Hold on. Of course, I clicked on the wrong thing, and I'm gone here. We're about okay. Here we go. Among the benefits, along with cheap child care, extra vacation, and free fertility treatments that have been doled out to parents in different parts of Europe, a region at the forefront of the worldwide baby shortage. Europe's overall population shrank during the pandemic and is on track to contract by about 40 million by 2050, according to United Nations statistics. Birth rates have been falling across the developed world since the 1960s, but the decline hit Europe harder and faster than demographers expected, a foreshadowing of the sudden drop in the United States fertility rates in recent years. Europe and other demographically challenged economies in Asia, such as South Korea and Singapore, have been pushing back against the demographic tide with lavish parental benefits for a generation. Yet, falling fertility has persisted among nearly all age groups, incomes, and education levels. Those who have many children often say they would have had them even without the benefits, and those who don't say the benefits don't make enough, those who don't say the benefits don't make enough of a difference. So, we're talking about, people aren't having kids. We need to throw money at the problem, make sure there's childcare, housing, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? That doesn't seem to matter in these Asian countries that have tried that. They're like, hey, have kids, we'll help you out. And people are like, still, fuck that. And like, why? And it seems like, I think part of the answer is a kind of concentration on like the richness of the individual life, and the recognition that like having kids is like a pain in the ass and takes you away from yourself. And like, I'm at the age where I'm like, shit or get off the pot when it comes to having kids. And I think I'm pretty much secure in the idea that I don't want kids. I just don't. Like, it's just something that has never been attractive to me. And I will say that part of that is because I watched my brothers have children at a young age. I watched their lives. I watched them not have any fun. I watched the whole just like stinky diaper bullshit happen when I was really young, in high school, honestly. And I was like, ew. And I've always felt that way. I've always been like repulsed. And part of me has been like, am I like biologically broken? Is there something wrong with me? Is evolution just not happening in me? But now I'm kind of comforted by the fact that lots of other people are saying, ew, too. The idea of having gross, stinky kids around. I mean, who needs that? I'm trying to like start a podcast here. I'm trying to be a content creator. You can't be a content creator when you got to take care of a bunch of babies. I'm being tongue-in-cheek here, but I think that has something to do with it. There's a kind of culture, and maybe it's a narcissistic culture, but it's leading to a kind of Children of Men type moment. And that movie, again, is such a touch point for us, in part because it's like, yeah, we're living in a world with no children. Or a lot of people are just like, just a bunch of adults, and we're all assholes. So, like, let's do it. Let's end game the world, right? Let's end game humanity, because all that's left is a bunch of adult assholes playing around on their phones, being like, I don't want to continue the species. Why would I do that? And you can see all these charts. I mean, they're absolutely unbelievable. There is just no replacement rate happening in many, many countries. Here's some more. 2 European countries devote more resources to families than almost any other nation, Hungary and Norway. Despite these programs, they have fertility rates of 1.5 and 1.4 children for every woman, respectively, far below the replacement rate of 2.1, the level needed to keep the population steady. The U.S. fertility rate is 1.6. Demographers suggest the reluctance to have kids is a fundamental cultural shift rather than a purely financial one. I used to say to myself, I'm too young. I have to finish my bachelor's degree. I have to find a partner. Then suddenly I woke up and I was 28 years old, married with a car and a house and a flexible job, and there were no more excuses, says Norwegian Nancy Hertz. Even though there are now no practical barriers, I realized that I don't want children. So it's not like, I really desperately want to have kids, but it's just too economically trying. No, it's more like, I just don't want kids. And that's amazing. And again, these charts are just falling off a fucking cliff. And it's sort of, causing a lot of cultures to contemplate disappearing. It's totally tied into the quote-unquote migrant and border crisis, because capital needs migrants. That's just real. There's not enough people replacing people here in America, so we need that border to be open. We need those migrants coming in, doing those jobs, and yet we have a political movement that's like, fuck the migrants, build the wall, all that shit. The recipe here is for really just kind of an end game, or at least a figuring out of massive problems of the human species. And we're going to get to the disinformation element of this in a second, because no one is thinking about this rationally, right? Like, rational discourse is out the fucking window. You can't win people over with facts, statistics, economic data, right? Here's some more. It's difficult to say why the population is having fewer children. Norwegian Minister of Children and Families said in an email. She said the government has increased monthly payments for parents and has formed a committee to investigate the baby bust and ways to reverse it. More women in Norway are childless or have only one kid. The percentage of 45-year-old women with 3 or more children fell to 27% last year from 33% in 2010. Women are also waiting longer to have children. The average age at which women had their first child reached 30 last year. The global surge in housing costs and a longer timeline for getting established in careers likely plays a role, but older first-time mothers can face obstacles. Women 35 and older are at higher risk of infertility and pregnancy complications. So on the economy side, it hasn't made a bump. What's been difficult for me is trying to have another kid, she says. This is a Polish woman who receives a stipend for childcare. The notion that we should have more kids, and you're very selfish if you have only had one, those are the things that took a toll on me. Her friend Ava, a 44-year-old Polish-Norwegian writer and social scientist with one son, has helped her see the upside of the one-child lifestyle. For me, the decision is not about money, it's about my life, she said. So that's a, Billy Joel reference there, the my life. But truly, my life. And like what is more important to people? And I can't, I'm again like, it's the phones, it's the social media. I'm the old guy that's saying that, but that really is my working hypothesis. Keep in mind that I'm fucking wrong all the time. I'm just reading the news here, folks. But these are the things that I'm thinking about today. Okay, electric vehicles and tech. There's a lot going on there. Just a quick thing about electric vehicles. The abrupt rise in electric car leasing could also have longer-term implications. While helping to alleviate inventory buildups now, it is likely to result in a flood of gently used EVs returning to the market in 2 or 3 years. This potential wave could put more downward pressure on prices. Automakers and lenders who own the leased vehicles would be on the hook for any losses incurred by steeper than expected drops in resale values. There's no positive way to put this, says Edmunds Drury, adding that 77% of EVs from dealerships were leased. The problem is those are coming back. So these are people getting cheap leases on Teslas and other electric vehicles, but they depreciate so quickly because the battery and other tech is changing so rapidly that like the old ones are obsolete automatically. So that just hurts the economy of these vehicles even more. Everyone knows, if you listen to this show, I'm a big electric vehicle skeptic and an even bigger skeptic of Elon Musk and his futuristic bullshit. But that's why Elon Musk is shifting to like SpaceX or these bullshit robots that don't work. They're remote controlled by humans. They're not autonomous because he has to sell something. And Teslas and electric vehicles have sort of hit their peak in terms of who's going to buy one. And they're also dropping in value very quickly. This is echoed in other regions of tech. Listen to what's happening with Apple. Apple, if you remember, put out that Vision Pro glasses in January of 2024. That's only like 9-10 months ago. And it's already fucking failing, and anyone could have seen that was gonna happen. I mean, do you remember Google Glasses? Those were like 15 years ago. I only saw one person ever. I remember it was at Eisenberg's diner in New York City, and I was like, what the fuck is this guy wearing on his face? And I wanted to I was so angry at anyone who would put this shit on their face, because something about it just really fucking bothers me. This is, again, like desperate tech, right? The Google Glasses, the Apple Vision Pro, I'm going to throw this out there. It's never going to fucking work. People don't want to put goggles on their fucking faces, dude. And here's some more on that. Apple's Vision Pro is struggling to attract major software makers to develop apps for the device, a challenge that threatens to slow the progress of the company's biggest new product in a decade. New apps released on the Vision Pro every month have slowed since its launch in January. Some of the most successful virtual reality software developers have so far opted not to build apps for the headset. Without enough killer apps, certain users have found the device less useful and are opting to sell it. It's a chicken or egg problem, says Bertrand Nevpu, who previously worked on the Vision Pro at Apple and is now an investor. Apple hasn't disclosed any sales figures for the Vision Pro, but analysts say the headset hasn't sold well. Apple cut its first-year Vision Pro shipments to between 400,000 and 450,000, down from between 7 and 800,000 units. In the second quarter this year, Vision Pro sales plunged 80%, LOL, from the first quarter, according to Counterpoint Research. A large chunk of initial buyers also returned the device within the 2-week window that Apple allows for a full refund. This guy, a 23-year-old software engineer, received his Vision Pro in February and said he tried everything he could do with it. He downloaded all the Apple recommended apps and tried to use it for work, but he struggled to find reasons to pick it up again consistently. In the beginning, I was super excited, he said, but it didn't integrate into my life. I ran out of stuff to do quickly, then it was just laying around. He ended up selling it on Facebook Marketplace for $2,600, a hit from the $4,000 he originally paid for it. So what a fucking joke. I mean, this is just another example of like, they don't have any ideas. The phone was it, right? Like, we've all bought our phones and we get one every couple years, and that's all they've got. And they're like, what can we do to grow? We need more technology. They got some people wearing the watches, and I think Apple Watch was successful, but now everyone else makes watches. It's not just Apple Watches. I'm wearing like a Fitbit right now because I'm in like some Walktober step challenge at the law firm, so I got to keep track of my steps. But I don't like wearing the Fitbit, honestly. I don't want to know my heart rate all the time. I don't want to know like medical shit like live happening to me. Like, that's actually kind of a nightmare. I want to forget that I have a body. I like to think of my body as just like sort of an angel, like a being of light. Like, instead of organs inside of me, it's all just a bright light. And I like to think of it that way. It's comforting. I read that in a book somewhere, and I'm going to go with that. So the Apple Watch thing, you know, obviously that's a saturated market too. Anyone who bought one. That's it. So the fucking goggles, get out of here, man. Who wants to put that on their face? I saw Zuckerberg putting some on, like he's going to put, like, the Meta, that's their next thing now. And it's just like, just stop, guys. Just stop. It's not going to work. Okay, here's this is the real juice for today. This is the stuff that really blew my mind. And this connects with, if you haven't listened to our news trap with Justin Rogers Cooper from Friday, that's October 11th. Go on the Patreon. You can hear that piece. Justin had he was on a really great rant on that episode, and I was sort of just listening and putting on my seatbelt with the implications of what he was saying, because he was saying a lot about sort of like, I don't know, an idea we've hit on a lot over the years on Nostalgia Trap, which is like the rational discourse versus the kind of religious discourse. And I don't mean like literal religion, but like kind of a spiritual or non-factually based reality. The idea that there are competing realities in America, in the world now, and social media and the internet has only accelerated that. But some of this is crazy. I mean, we're getting to the point where people are really believing that the government manufactured the hurricane, and that's having implications on the way that the responses play out. But it gets even crazier than that. This piece today really hits on some very disturbing elements of this. Listen to this. This is more than just a misinformation crisis. To watch as real information is overwhelmed by crank theories and public servants battle death threats is to confront two alarming facts. First, that a durable ecosystem exists to ensconce citizens in an alternate reality. And second, that the people consuming and amplifying those lies are not helpless dupes, but willing participants. Some of the lies and obfuscation are politically motivated, such as the claim that FEMA is offering only $750 in total to hurricane victims who've lost their home. In reality, FEMA offers $750 as immediate serious needs assistance to help people get basic supplies such as food and water. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Fox News have all repeated that lie. Trump also posted and later deleted on Truth Social that FEMA money was given to undocumented migrants, which is also untrue. Elon Musk, who owns X, claimed without evidence that FEMA was actively blocking shipments and seizing goods and services locally and locking them away to state they are their own. It's very real and scary how much they've taken control to stop people helping. That post has been viewed more than 40 million times. Other influencers, such as the Trump sycophant Laura Loomer, have urged their followers to disrupt the disaster agency's efforts to help hurricane victims. Do not comply with FEMA, she posted on X. This is a matter of survival. So real like Civil War type language, right? These people are absolute fucking psychos. And you can tell that just by looking at Laura Loomer's insane face. But here's some more. Similarly, those sharing the lies are happy to admit that they do not care whether what they're pushing is real or not. Such was the case last week when Republican politicians shared an AI-generated viral image of a little girl holding a puppy while supposedly fleeing Helene. Though the image was clearly fake and quickly debunked, some politicians remained defiant. Y'all, I don't know where this photo came from, and honestly, it doesn't matter, Amy Kramer, who represents Georgia on the Republican National Committee, wrote after sharing the fake image. I'm leaving it because it's emblematic of the trauma and pain people are living through right now. So again, this is a member of Congress, an elected official of the Republican Party, posting AI fake images and saying, I don't give a fuck if they're fake because it's real to me, right? Like, that's where we're at. Emotional truths. I think it was fucking 20 years ago that Stephen Colbert was talking about truthiness. I don't know if any in my audience would remember this. But, you know, that sort of manufactured reality has been amplified and become such a dominant part of our discourse that we live in fucking wacko world now. And the idea that you could just like counter any of these people by being like, well, actually, the facts show that that's untrue is a joke. I don't know how you stop this shit, honestly, because it means there is no objective consensus reality for us to deal with anymore. We're all in our own little bubbles. That's crazy shit. Here's some more. The journalist Parker Molloy compiled screenshots of people acknowledging that this image is AI, but still insisting that it's real on some deeper level. Proof, Molloy noted, that we're living in the post-reality. Technology writer Jason Kebler argued that we've entered the fuck it era of AI slop and political messaging, with AI-generated images being used to convey whatever partisan messages suit the moment, regardless of truth. So much of the conversation around misinformation suggests that its primary job is to persuade. But as Michael Caulfield, an information researcher at the University of Washington, has argued, the primary use of misinformation is not to change the beliefs of other people at all. Instead, the vast majority of misinformation is offered as a service for people to maintain their beliefs in face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. This distinction is important, in part because it assigns agency to those who consume and share obviously fake information. What is clear from comments such as Kramer's is that she is not a dupe. Although she may come off as deeply incurious and shameless, she is publicly admitting to being an active participant in the far-right's world-building project, where feel is always greater than real. Wow. What we're witnessing online during and in the aftermath of these hurricanes is a group of people desperate to protect the dark, fictitious world they've built. Rather than deal with the realities of a warming planet hurling once-in-a-generation storms at them every few weeks, they'd rather malign and threaten meteorologists, who in their minds are nothing but trained subversive liar, programmed to spew stupid shit to support the global warming bullshit, as one ex-user put it. It is a strategy designed to silence voices of reason, because those voices threaten to expose the cracks in their current worldview. But their efforts are doomed, futile. As one dispirited meteorologist wrote on X this week, murdering meteorologists won't stop hurricanes. I can't believe I just had to type that. Because that's the real implication, right? These people are like literally saying these are all lying demons who control our fucking world. The next step is we got to kill them all. And lucky for these people, Donald J. Trump is more than ready to echo that language to get elected. And if he's elected or steals the election or whatever happens next month, God fucking help us, because these psychos are fucking empowered. In one sense, these attacks and their increased desperation make sense. The world feels dark. For many people, it's tempting to meet that with a retreat into the delusion that they've got everything figured out, that the powers that be have conspired against them directly. But in turning away, they exacerbate a crisis that has characterized the Trump era, one that will reverberate to Election Day and beyond. Americans are divided, not just by political beliefs, but by whether they believe in a shared reality or desire one at all. Woo! Good Lord. It really makes you, like, when I hear that, and then I think about, like, leftists who are, like, kind of dependent upon, like, a factual take on reality, right? Or leftists who sort of use capitalism and, like, a top-down model to explain why everything is fucked up. All of that seems really misguided and wrong to me now. And that doesn't mean I don't consider myself, like, on the left. Because what is the right? I mean, goddamn, they're fucking Nazis. And I don't think I'm a Nazi. But, like, to me, I'm stuck right now. This is where I am as, like, a long-term person of the left. Like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? Like, how the fuck are we going to counter this type of world and the problems that I've laid out in just the last fucking 30 minutes, right? And again, I don't have answers for it. Maybe it's all going to be good. Maybe Kamala Harris is just going to win the election and Trump will concede. L-O-fucking-L. We're headed towards something very, very dark in America, very, very dark in the world. And, who wants to be a doomsayer? But I don't have a bell, but I'm ringing my fucking bell, dude. Like, we're in a fucking emergency. And talking to anyone, like, you can hear it. Like, Joe Rogan is delivering this shit, right? This isn't just like psycho white supremacists on some weird black helicopter conspiracy website. This is the fucking mainstream of America. The mainstream of America is sitting here. Millions and millions of people being like, well, actually, it could have been a hurricane weapon. It could be the U.S. government controlling the weather. And you're like, how? Why? Why would the Democrats want to do that? Like, what power would that give them? It makes no fucking sense, and yet here we fucking are. And COVID, I mean, honestly, COVID opened this all up, right? That's why I look at the anti-vaxxers and I'm just like, God damn it, dude. Like, I get it. I get why it happened. I don't trust Big Pharma either, but we're off the map here, and it's something we have been warning about a lot on Nostalgia Trap lately. So thanks so much for listening to my takes. I was very coffeed up today, and I'm starting to come down. I'm starting to feel the euphoria. That means I need more coffee. So thanks very much. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.